Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Palestine's President Mahmoud Abbas says his country will cut all ties, including security cooperation with Israel and the US. Addressing an emergency meeting of the Arab League in Cairo, he said Washington's Middle East plan violates the Oslo Accords. Here are the details. President Donald Trump's so-called peace plan for the Middle East has sparked anger among Palestinians. The plan called for two states with Jerusalem as Israel's undivided capital. Washington has called the agreement the deal of the century. But the Arab League, at an emergency meeting in Cairo, rejected the plan. It said it will not cooperate with Washington in the execution of the plan. Addressing the meeting, Palestine's President Mahmoud Abbas said he will never accept Jerusalem as Israel's capital.
Simply by saying that Jerusalem will not be a part of Israel, I won't accept this solution. I will not accept it in any way, and I won't have it written in my history or in my country's history that I have sold Jerusalem.
The Palestinian leader said the plan is in violation of international agreements signed between Israel and Palestine.
Unfortunately, we will not be able to accept America after this long experience.
Following the Mideast plan, massive protests have erupted across the West Bank, with many protesters injured by Israeli fighting. Malaysia and Turkey have already rejected the plan. The US has warned Palestine against opposing President Trump's Middle East plan at the UN. Trump's plan gives Israel a green light to annex key parts of the occupied West Bank. The US ambassador to the UN, Kelly Croft, says taking up the case at the world body will only repeat the failed pattern of the last 7 decades. Palestine's President Mahmoud Abbas will speak on the scheme at the UN Security Council in the next 2 weeks. UN envoy Riyad Mansour said Palestine hopes the UNSC will vote on a draft resolution on the issue. Muslim states and most European countries have rejected Trump's deal, calling it unacceptable. Israeli warplanes have bombed multiple locations in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli Defense Ministry says the aircraft struck Hamas's posts in retaliation to a rocket fire. Earlier, the Israeli military said it had launched the wide-scale attacks on militant targets in the Gaza Strip. The attacks came amid heightened tensions after US President Donald Trump released his Middle East peace plan. In Iraq, President Barham Saleh has appointed Mohammad Tawfiq Alawi as the country's new prime minister, ending over 2 months of political deadlock. The former minister of communications will run the country until early elections can be held. He will have to form a new government within a month. This comes as President Saleh's 3-day deadline for lawmakers to nominate a new prime minister ends today. The country has been gripped by 4 months of anti-government protests demanding an overhaul of the political elite. Amid the unrest, former Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi resigned in November, but he had stayed on in a caretaker role as the rival parties struggled to agree on a successor. In Syria, rebels have launched an attack on government-held positions northeast of Aleppo, opening a new front against regime forces. A war monitor said the attack was focused on territory near the city of Al-Bab, which has been controlled by Turkey and its allies since 2017. However, Syrian state media made no mention of a new attack, but the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said a fierce attack was carried out by factions loyal to Turkey. Rebels claim they have taken 3 villages so far. Government forces, backed by Russian air power, have made rapid advances in Idlib this week. Yesterday, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said Ankara may launch a military operation in Idlib. A civilian has been wounded in unprovoked Indian fighting in the Satwal sector along the line of control. The Pakistan Army's media wing says Indian forces are deliberately targeting civilians along the LOC. A 21-year-old woman has been wounded in unprovoked Indian fighting in the Chirikot sector. Pakistan has time and again asked India to respect the 2003 ceasefire agreement, but ceasefire violations by Indian forces continue unabated. Tensions between India and Pakistan increased after New Delhi stripped occupied Kashmir of its autonomy in August last year. In New Delhi, 2 days after a teenager shot a protester, another shooting has been reported at an all-women sit-in against the BJP's controversial new citizenship law. Police said no protester was wounded after a man fired a gun at New Delhi's Shaheen Bagh. The suspect shouted a Hindu nationalist slogan as he fired shots in the Muslim-dominated area, where hundreds of women have been protesting since mid-December. The suspect, identified by the police as Kapil Gujjar, also shouted, "Only Hindus will prevail in this country." Police said Gujjar is a resident of Dalupura village on the outskirts of the Indian capital and has been taken into custody. The US says it will expand its limits on immigration to 6 more countries. Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf said citizens from Nigeria, Eritrea, Sudan, Tanzania, Kyrgyzstan and Myanmar will no longer obtain some types of visas. Speaking to reporters, Wolf said the government will also stop issuing diversity visas to Tanzania and Sudan. Wolf said no non-immigrant visas are not affected for these countries. He said a failure to meet US security and information sharing standards led to the ban. Immigrant advocates and rights groups have criticized the move, saying it weaponizes immigration law to advance a xenophobic agenda. In 2017, President Donald Trump introduced the travel ban on 12 countries, most of them with Muslim majorities. Meanwhile, the US has eased the travel advisory for Pakistan, while acknowledging the security environment in the country has significantly improved. The development comes days after the UK eased travel restrictions to the country over the improved security situation. In a statement, the US State Department said there are greater security resources and infrastructure in Pakistan's major cities. Noting the update, Pakistan's Foreign Office has described the development as a step in the right direction. The Foreign Office at Islamabad has made resolute efforts to enhance security throughout the country. It said the improvement in security has also led the UN to redesignate Islamabad as a family station for its personnel. It said the development offers opportunities for enhanced economic activity and foreign direct investment in Pakistan. Moving on to China, with the death toll from the Wuhan coronavirus has risen to 259. Health officials say nearly 12,000 people have been infected by the virus. More in this report.
The US has declared coronavirus a national health emergency and imposed a quarantine. All major US airlines have cancelled flights to mainland China. Australia's Qantas Airways said the entry restrictions imposed by the US have also forced it to suspend its flight to China from February 9th. The center of the epidemic, China's Hubei province, remains under virtual quarantine, with roads sealed off and public transport shut down. Officials say the local government is stepping up efforts to ensure continued medical and market supplies in Wuhan.
Our medical staff are also in shortage. As the number of patients increase, there's an increasing demand for our medical staff. But the shortage also has eased to some extent as medical teams, including those from the Chinese People's Liberation Army, continued to arrive in support of us.
Yesterday, the UK also confirmed its first 2 cases of the coronavirus after World Health Organization declared the outbreak a global emergency.
Amid rising fears over the coronavirus outbreak, a US technology giant, Apple has announced the closure of all the official stores and the corporate offices in mainland China until 9th of February. In a statement, Apple said the contact centers and stores have been closed after the latest advice from the health experts. It said the company extends thoughts with most affected people and those working tirelessly to contain it. The company said it will closely monitor the situation and is looking forward to reopen the stores as soon as possible. China is home to the company's 3rd biggest consumer market. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Welcome back. 3 years after the Brexit referendum, the UK is finally out of the EU. Many UK nationals lament their country's decision, saying it has made them weaker as a nation. More in this report. Britons woke up in a country that's no longer a part of the European Union on Saturday. Many of them expressed apprehension about the future. Katie Higgins, a business consultant, says this is the worst thing that British citizens could have done to their country.
I've lived and worked all over Europe, and this decimates my career. It's so sad that my children will never have the opportunity to work as I have done all over Europe. What more can I say? Without crying.
London resident David Bell, who voted to leave the EU, is more optimistic.
Absolutely, definitely. I voted to leave, I'm happy about it. It's great. We're going to thrive, it'll be all right.
Parisians also expressed sorrow about their divorce with Britain.
I think it is sad, a shame, and it really is a blow to the European dream. Sincerely, I would have preferred for them to stay with us, and I do not really understand their choice.
The UK and the EU are now in a period of transition during which their future relationship will be negotiated before 31st of December 2020. By then, the consequences of Britain leaving the European Union will also be clearer. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has called for real progress in bilateral relations with Belarus. He said this following a meeting in Minsk with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. At a joint press appearance with Lukashenko, he said Washington is confident that together with Minsk, they can progress in every dimension of their relationship. Pompeo also said the US will appoint an ambassador to Belarus.
We want to be here. You'll see we've built our team diplomatically here by almost double. We'll do that again. We'll have an ambassador here before too long.
Lukashenko appreciated Pompeo's visit to Belarus, saying he came to Minsk despite misunderstandings between the two countries. Now moving on, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has offered Colombia a new solution to an extradition conundrum over the detained Fugitive Acts lawmaker. Colombian Ida Milano was detained by security forces in the northwestern city of Maracaibo after she illegally crossed into Venezuela. Milano was serving a 15-year prison sentence in Colombia for vote buying when she staged a spectacular escape in October. Maduro said he is willing to allow Colombian authorities to interview the captured former lawmaker. He said if Colombia didn't take up the offer, Milano could face trial in Venezuela. But Colombia said it would submit an extradition request to Venezuela's opposition leader, Juan Guaido, as it doesn't recognize Maduro. Amid a diplomatic standoff, Maduro has also offered to restore diplomatic relations between the two countries. 4 people have been killed during a fresh wave of protests in Chile's capital, Santiago. Demonstrations appear to have calmed, but this week has seen a rise in violent protests. Officials say one man died of suffocation after a supermarket was set on fire, while another was shot dead by police. Another man was killed after being hit by a hijacked bus, and another after being struck by a police van. 30 people have died in protests that began in October when the government increased metro fares. In Tanzania, 13 people have been killed by flash floods that swept 16 villages in the southern district of Kilwa in the Lindi region. Officials said floods have left 15,000 other people homeless and damaged thousands of hectares of farmland. The government has created 4 centers sheltering 8,000 homeless people. Officials said the remaining 7,096 people were being accommodated by their relatives and friends. Kilwa district has a total of 90 villages. Authorities are counting the loss in the 16 villages to establish the exact number of houses that have been demolished. The UN Security Council has approved a 6-month relaxation of an arms embargo on the Central African Republic. 13 of the Council, 15 members, voted for the resolution, with China and Russia abstaining. The resolution allows the Central African Republic to acquire military vehicles after notifying the UN ahead of time. France drafted the resolution, which reimposes the arms embargo at the end of July. China said the resolution did not respect the wishes of CAR's authorities. Russia's UN envoy, Dmitry Polyansky, said the resolution did not take all the arguments into consideration. The UN is looking for ways to scale up its humanitarian aid in response to the recent military escalation in northwest Syria. In a press briefing, the UN General Secretary spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said dozens of civilians have been killed by recent airstrikes and shelling in Idlib. Dujarric said that he regretted many medical facilities have suspended their work because of the growing insecurity in the region. He said humanitarian organizations are still trying to organize and support the evacuation of people. The spokesperson said the situation in Idlib is worsening. The UN also urged the warring sides to spare civilians and to help humanitarian activities. UN Organization Stabilization Mission in DR Congo has awarded Pakistani female peacekeepers with medals. This is Pakistan's first female mission to receive any UN award for its services. In a statement, the mission said the officers throughout their deployment worked hard to win the trust of the community. 15 female officers, including majors and captains, were honored in a ceremony in the South Kivu region. The officers are psychologists, stress counselors, gender advisors, doctors, nurses, information officers, and logistics officers. Another team of 17 women will join the mission this month. It's time for a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A Malawi-based drone academy is teaching young Africans how to use the technology to support humanitarian and development projects on the continent. Students don't just learn how to fly drones, but also how to build them from scratch. More in this report.
Africa is a continent prone to natural disasters that's dotted with isolated communities. This makes drones an invaluable tool. They can be used to monitor crops, deliver medical supplies, and track wildlife. Ethiopian aeronautical engineer Lydia Elias has dreamed of using drone technology for this purpose.
After me learning, I try to teach my people I also have an aerospace club, so I'm trying to transfer this knowledge to the students that are fellows in my country.
Ladia is a part of the school's first batch of 27 students. Over the course of 12 weeks, they will learn how to build drones, fly, and use them to collect data.
For a short time that I've been here, I've been able to create this drone because this drone is the drone which I made from my own ends through the use of provided aided materials. We provided all these materials in how to go about. Then I followed all the procedures until I make this drone.
The project is a part of wider UNICEF initiative to help young Africans gain crucial skills for the 21st century. The academy plans to train 150 students by 2021.
In Uruguay, a local company has come up with an innovative idea to clean up a historical seaside resort. The organization is encouraging people to collect, clean, and compact plastic in exchange for a virtual currency that gives them discounts. More in this report.
Plastic is one of the biggest environmental concerns of our era. Now, several countries are working to remove plastic trash from their beaches. A company in Uruguay is encouraging the local community to take on the plastic menace by offering incentives to collect plastic, by giving people a virtual currency in exchange for plastic collected from the beach. Users deposit the collected waste and start accumulating the virtual currency.
Plastic Coin is an incentive system in which users are encouraged to sort their household waste and bring it clean and dry to a collection center and exchange it for a virtual currency that gives them discounts or benefits or products from member companies.
The minimum deposit is 1 kilogram of plastic, which is worth 100 plastic coins. Plastic removed from the beach gets 200 plastic coins and 400 for microplastic. The plastic coins can be exchanged with discount vouchers.
The user is the first link in the recycling chain. Let him be aware of his plastic consumption and the damage it generates. So they say, well, I am collaborating with this. And it is not that they are collaborating because we are rewarding them with the benefit. In a way, we are paying them to do it.
The project's goal is to clean a historical seaside resort in Uruguay's coast. It has been well received by the local community. The company has reached nearly 1,000 users within 2 weeks.
I was looking for something to entertain myself and suddenly I saw the page, started reading and showed it to my mother. And my mother liked the idea, so we started to collect plastic.
The project was just launched in early January, and in a show of appreciation, a government agency has also contributed $5,000 to the cause.
Another weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.